So there was one thing when I was on your podcast last summer that I thought was so interesting when you explained it to me. This is one of those things that I've just picked up on how it works with fasting and the food addiction. That for me, I was just kind of amazed by fasting when I got into it, and I did all these experiments, and I was always refeeding on the good whole foods, you know, and I just kind of noticed that because at that point before, it was not like I had a huge food addiction issue or anything, but I could definitely be tempted by many things, and so I just kind of noticed how it's like general hunger is not as difficult to deal with at all. And these other things now, I don't care about them because I enjoy the foods I eat so much. And I have kind of my way of explaining how that works, but I think you explained it so well. And so I'd love to just hear that again.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of this like craving signaling, it has different moving parts, but I would say like the main two ones is the reward centers, both in the brain and the gut, and bacterial signaling, right? So I'm going to go with the latter one first. So bacterial signaling, or we could call it's also yeast, it's also fungi, it's also parasites actually, which are all supposed to be in the gut, by the way, right? It's just like the ratios and which ones that matters the most.
Sure.
But like any other living organism, it wants to stay alive. So when you take away the thing that it's feeding on, right, like a lot of these bacteria, or a lot of these like bacteria that can become problematic, feast on a lot of the, bad food, right? Like that's the only way to say it, like a lot of the junk food. And when you take that away, like if you take away their life source, right, like the source of food, then they're going to cause an issue. And bacterial signaling happens from the gut to the brain, right, through various things or various connections in the gut-brain axis, which is just a fancy word for saying that there's connections from the gut to the brain, right? And then it will literally signal a like starving signal. And that people have that like, oh, I need to eat this food, but you don't need to.
No.
It's the bacteria.
Again, being able to trust the intuition, right?
And then the other thing, and that's something that we delved into more, is that the reward centers in the gut and in the brain gets scrubbed and like reset. Right? So a lot of people have the dopamine feedback loop, right? Hedonic treadmill style, where it's like, oh, I eat this, like ice cream is a good example, right? It's the perfect combination of everything. It has like some salt, it has fat, and it has sugar, right? What's not to love? So when you eat that, it's like both reward centers in the gut and in the brain just kind of light up. But when you take that, not just when you take that away, but when you fast, right? The first thing that happens is that you scrub these receptors clean. And the second thing that happens is that the baseline, right? So what it activates, right? It drops. So it makes you more. We could also say it makes you more sensitive to these types of foods, which it does. But the dependency on them goes away because your dopamine comes back to baseline. It's like now just eating some food creates the same type of response. Instead of that, you need, you know, the newest Ben and Jerry flavor that has 25 fucking different flavors, right? It's this adaptation thing that dopamine does and that the physiology does, right?
And so this is what I want people to understand, because a lot of people feel like they're missing out on something now. And you're going to feel that way right now, but just play with the thought that you never, this was never available to you, then you can't miss out on something. And if you don't just kind of have to be stoic and no, I'm feeling this way. But if you can come to a point where you're going to feel the things you're missing out on, the Ben and Jerry's, now, like just the meat and potatoes or whatever you're now going to eat, it has the same effect. Like the foods we've been eating, we've been enjoying the shit out of it. It's just regular food.
It's just normal whole food.
Some meat, some fruit, some kefir, butter.
That's literally all it is, right?
Yeah.
And the really fucked up thing, what people don't know, and this is not known generally, is that the palate of the tongue changes because of these types of foods. But it also changes when you fast. So it resets these types of, like, the tongue, the taste receptors as well. And the longer you eat that way, and that's why we can say, like, just a bowl of like kefir and maybe some fruit and honey, that's like, it's even better than a lot of these hyper palatable foods. Because our tongue receptors and palate has just changed. Like even a good steak is amazing, right? I mean, it just tastes so good. But because, you know, these physiological changes have occurred, come back to baseline that you can actually taste the taste of these things, right? Rather than like your mind gets tricked with these hyper palatable foods, and then all these adaptations happen. So it's not just your gut, it's not just your brain, it's your tongue too, right? Which you can literally reset and reshape according to the foods that you will enjoy that you aren't necessarily now, right?
Super interesting. And what I want people to understand too is, right, if you're right now eating the junk food every day, even doing one fast, sure, if you refeed on the whole foods that day, you're probably gonna enjoy it a lot, even if it's very like plain like that. But it doesn't like quite go away just with a one fast.
No.
But you can always do these gradual things. Like I even did that kind of even before I started fasting. Like I tried to, what way can I use to make it at least better for now? It's still not the optimal thing. So for instance, I was relying on some of these things like, keto, sweetened things like high fat, low carb chocolate balls with some sweeteners. I had some protein bars here and there and stuff. And it's the same thing kind of with food, that maybe first I wanted more, even not eating junk food, maybe I want some kind of sauce or something on it, which I will have. I have some barbecue sauce, a high quality one. I have it every now and then. But the point is, it can be a gradual process too. And I always think that sometimes it can be overwhelming to someone. It seems so far away, that, but I feel like I need all this shit. And I'm going to eat, you tell me I eat potatoes and a steak with nothing else. And it's like, but you don't have to start out there. That's fine. We can recognize that, this would be the kind of ideal, but it's okay. If you can make it work in between stages.
For sure.
And you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, most definitely.